Testing.
Everybody, mics on, please. It's called the meeting of the Environmental Commission. What is it, August 23rd? To order. Our Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
I guess roll call, we know who's here.
I think so.
Okay.
I think I've got everybody accounted for.
Approval of the minutes. I want to make one change to the minutes. Page 2, number 5B. It goes as follows. The Subcommittee of Environmental Commission members will work under Gretchen's direction to read and evaluate all planning board applications. The members are Gretchen, Chris, Hope, and Justine. That's fine. I think I just assume delete the rest of that paragraph, because once we do get in front of the planning board, whatever we would recommend, it does become a condition of approval. So, and I'm going to read later on, I'll read the minutes of the last resolution that we did for the application over there at, where there's 4 units over there on Washington Street. I'll read it right now, so you can know exactly how it was read. The applicant has been provided, now this is part of our resolution that the applicant, he must adhere to, okay? So the applicant has been provided with a report by the Environmental Commission which addresses certain recommendations regarding native species. The applicant has agreed to accept these recommendations and work with the Environmental Commission and the board engineer to introduce and utilize native species as recommended by the Environmental Commission, and to work in good faith with the Environmental Commission and the board engineer regarding the final landscaping plan. So that's part of it. I mean, so now if he goes back over there and any one of us sees whatever he did is not what he should be doing, then he can be called to task because he didn't agree with what he was supposed to do, all right? So I think that's, when we do these, so when we review those applications, and the engineer is pretty good at saying, he reads in what our recommendations are, and he looks at the applicant in the eye and says, now, do you agree to do these things? And he says yes, and that comes part of the application. So I think it's a good thing.
Right.
What we do is not, it's not, we're just not, whistling in the wind when we make these recommendations. Now, the last application that we did, it was for, what was it? It was where we're going to put 2 houses over there where
the old Capoletti's.
Old Capoletti's. Yeah. It didn't get very far on the application process. I mean, it was turned down almost right away. So there was really no reason for us to even, we made recommendations, but in that instance, nothing's going to happen to it because it was turned down in the first place. So that one, and we have no meeting tonight, and there's no applications on the table.
I have a question about the houses on Missouri and Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Did we ever see planning for that, or the?
I don't remember.
I haven't seen the landscape.
That's been a long time.
Oh, God, I know.
Application in front of the planning board.
I
I mean,
know.
that was really it was really a mess.
Oh, I know, because it came to us many times, and the person making the application hadn't bought the property yet.
It was also like 2 or 3 times in front of the planning board because
Right.
they changed the plan both times. So that one's a bad instance. I'm not sure that we have any teeth in that, okay? I don't think we did.
Can we get
Not at this process because it's already been approved.
Okay.
May I ask a question? So in terms of the relationship between the EC as an advisory to the planning board does not need to accept the Environmental Commission's comments, though, correct? They can override and still approve the plan.
Now, what would happen would be is now in that process, if it goes in front, if that conversation goes that way and the engineer says that this is what the Environmental Commission recommends, because we do have that letter that we submit to them, and it's part of his packet. It's part of everybody's review process. You're right, if they just say they don't want to do that, I suppose at that point, either we could make objections, or somebody on the planning board can make an objection that we want to adhere to what the environmental commission says.
Okay,
But in that instance, you're probably right. If nobody steps up on the planning board and says, I agree with the environmental commission, or they disagree, then it might not become part of it. But the engineer makes a really concerted effort. He reads into exactly what we recommend. And I can't remember a time where they've said no,
okay,
the applicant, because he thinks it's part of the process. You know,
okay.
and it really, we got our foot in the door. I mean, only because before, you know how long it took us forever to get to this place in time where we actually have a seat at the table on this thing. It took years to get there. I mean, so now whenever any application comes, the Environmental Commission gets a notice of something. And whether we say anything or not, that's on us.
So should we be actively trying to not police these?
Well, we can't police it.
No,
But-
but using the word police, should we be watching them, or?
I would think we should. I mean, it's like any other problem in the
It's
city.
not over and done, in other words.
Enforcement's always an issue in this town
Oh, it
after
is.
something is
Yeah.
approved. Do they do it correctly or not?
Right.
But in this instance, I mean, you know where that project is going, and if you see anything there that doesn't look right, then we can just make a concerted effort to contact the engineer, and Craig's on top of this stuff, as much as he can be.
Yep.
He is, he's a good guy.
Can I report that the applicant, the Washington Street applicant, sent Karen a message that she wanted to contact Gretchen to meet with her on the property and go over,
You can put that in the minutes, yeah, that's fine.
okay. And Gretchen approved, and it went back and forth, and I just didn't send it out to the membership at large. But that was really very pleasing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's very positive.
I mean, that was part of what he had to do. I mean,
Right, so
Yeah.
that seems like that should be
Right.
part of their process when they sign that, realizing that they.
But I didn't send it out to everybody because Karen wrote to Gretchen and to me for Gretchen's permission, and Gretchen wrote to Karen and me that she, you know.
Well, she's head of that committee anyway, of our subcommittee to do that, so.
Right, but I
that's-
wanted to let you know that.
I think that's really progress.
And then after last month's meeting, I did send the information from the ANJAC guidebook that discussed how environmental commissions are also advisory for zoning in some municipalities. There was discussion over several months here about how we may expand our ability to comment from beyond just,
Well, that's the
planning.
zoning board. It might be, I mean,
yeah.
we-
So Mike Yeager.
it was brought up at the meeting about,
Yeah.
they realized that we're not the zoning board.
Right, so Mike Yeager had said he was going to introduce that to the council meeting, so that connects to that discussion of
To
last
get a
month.
liaison from the zoning board. on the
Yeah.
committee,
Yeah,
I would assume. Anyway, but I think that was progress, and I didn't mean to, I don't want to change the minutes, but I think it's important to note that
It's a good
we
step.
did have a say in that application, and we still do.
Well, let's approve it as modified.
The minutes.
Yeah.
No, that's fine, yeah. I mean, you Xed out that last paragraph there of the minutes, right?
Okay. yeah.
That's fine,
I make a movement to accept the minutes from last meeting
as amended.
as amended.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Okay?
Opposed?
All right.
Okay, that's pretty much my report, and we went over the planning board recommendations. I don't know what's going on with our invasive species ordinance.
I was at the meeting.
Okay.
Council meeting, so I can give a tiny report here. So Mike did discuss with the council the fact that we were trying very hard to find the right mix to introduce and the right ordinance. And he talked about how he was working with our city solicitor as well. And the council, of course, each one had, you know, some input and certainly, I would say that Lorraine spoke right up about the dirty dozen, you know, and she seems to be very familiar with the fact that we're certainly not wanting any bamboo or any English ivy whatsoever in the town. But the conversation went back and forth a little bit. This was just a council conversation. And went back about, so who's allowed to inspect on private property? That kind of thing. And so the solicitor had some kind of input at some point. He said that, you know, if there are private arguments between neighbors, that's not a part of the city. And that the fact that city employees would not be allowed to make that move either, unless it was some sort of enforcement agent. So I think that it was a very healthy discussion. They're on board to know what we're at least proposing. Mike did a very good job about talking through various groups and ordinances introduced by other towns. We talked a little bit about Point Pleasant. I think that's one of the cities that we looked at in terms of a borough that has some sort of good description. And there were others as well that were pointed out. But it was a healthy introduction is all I can say at this point. I think that our city solicitor will look at the ordinance another time, and I think that what Mike brings back to us will let us know any modifications to the ordinance that they're presently working on. So, that's what I learned. But then someone from the audience got up and said, well, you have a lot of no, 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 don't do this, don't do that kind of recommendation. Shouldn't the Environmental Commission have something that says this is what you should do? So I did respond to that, because over the last 25 years, we certainly know that the planning board gives every applicant our Audubon list. So that kind of was the gist of the discussion at the council meeting.
And what do we do from here on? Where do we go from here?
Well, I do believe that Mike will come back after seeing our city solicitor another time with a proposal for how we go forward with the next ordinance. So that's as much as was discussed.
So maybe you put on an agenda for next meeting, something about whether we address it or not, if Mike comes back with anything from the council. Okay?
In the minutes here, we have that, the Environmental Commission Nature Center could co-author, co-produce a pamphlet on native plantings. Should we do that in addition to the list that originally was Pat Sutton's list of native plants that help bring in butterflies and bugs?
I didn't quite hear.
So on number
In
7
7,
of
it's-
July's minutes, there's an item that discusses the Environmental Commission co-authoring a pamphlet with the Nature Center in advance of the Monarch Festival, right?
Wow.
Right, and I'm asking, should we do that in addition to the list? Or should we just go with the list?
The list that,
I think the more the better. I think you have to tell people something 24 times before it sinks in. So having this
So do both.
information just flooded
I
is
will-
probably best.
I will make a draft of a brochure
Great.
for not native plants, but plants that bring in wildlife, which is what we need. I mean, the monarchs now are an endangered species.
It's hard to believe, but
And it's not necessarily the United States, but it's where they winter that their trees have been cut down. And there isn't anything we can do about that, but we can plant more milkweed.
good.
At least the generation that goes to Mexico can be beefed up.
So on that note, the Monarch Festival is on September 25th, and the
Plant sales.
we were invited to have a table at the festival. They so enjoyed what we did at the Ocean Festival. And at the recap Ocean Festival meeting 2 weeks ago, Emily, the program director at the Nature Center, asked if we would attend. So she sent me the application, and there's the fee, and then in order to do the all-natural supplies for the garden, again, I would need to purchase those items, and this time around, I would like the expense to be covered by the commission instead of floating it out of pocket. So I don't know what the process for that is, but
why don't you buy it, send me the bill, and I'll submit it.
great, okay, cool. And then in terms of submitting the application, I should just
Same thing.
send that to you, Meryl, and you can submit it? Or not?
What's the application fee for that?
$40.
Yeah, just
Just
submit it.
pay it and send you the,
It's probably easier to do it that way.
Yeah.
As long as you're comfortable.
Oh, yeah,
Take a
that's-
little while to get your money back.
that's fine, it's fine. Okay,
All right.
great.
Actually, what did you spend before? You ought to submit that too.
Do you
What-
have any receipts?
Yeah, I have all of them, but,
Send it.
Submit it and see whether
We've
we
got
can.
$5,000. We haven't spent.
okay.
Think about it. If you want to do it, submit it and.
I mean, I would rather the commission ultimately spend the money to implement new projects and fund research or, surveys, but,
You shouldn't have to spend your own money.
But
Okay.
Ocean
This is a new
Festival's new,
project, and it is educational. That covers
Exactly.
all of that, right?
okay.
both of them.
Yes.
So for this one, I definitely will submit them, and I'll send them, and if we can cover it, great. If we can't, no big deal. But please, everyone, Saturday, the 25th, Sunday the 25th, at the Nature Center.
Wonderful.
Is it a Saturday?
I think Saturday is the plant sale and Sunday is the Monarch Festival, so Sunday. But that entire weekend, there are events there.
Anything else, Justine? Anything else?
About the,
The Monarch Festival.
no,
All right.
that's it.
I guess next on the list is Environmental Commission Stewardship Award for July 2022.
Well,
Explain, I'm not sure what's going on there.
okay. So, ANJAC, our parent organization, every member of the commission should be getting this booklet quarterly. Yes.
Yep.
So, last year, we submitted an application because the Environmental Commission for probably 3 years led a campaign against plastic bags. And you all just worked very, very hard at that. And so collecting the information from the past minutes and the publications and so forth. We submitted to ANJAC our efforts, and we were given a positive acclamation. So we were thrilled to know that they thought about Cape May and that we were thinking about the world at large, and we were excited for that. So this year, this same application has come forward and says, is there a project that you folks have been working on that everybody in the state should know about? And we'd like to cite that. So I was just thinking that Ocean Fest was just a marvelous, marvelous application for us to think. What do you think?
Charlotte printed this out. We have the Environmental Achievement Award, the nomination form. So we were intending to meet this coming week to fill it out to reflect the Ocean Festival project as sponsored by the Environmental Commission and submit it to the state.
Are they asking for just one project? Okay, so we can't do the invasive ordinance?
I think once
we're
it
working on.
passes,
Then we can?
then we
Okay.
should. So maybe next year,
Next year.
next
Okay.
cycle.
It's something that, yeah, that's
Right.
great.
Okay.
Okay.
And this one will have pictures to go with it, I'm sure.
It certainly will. It certainly
Because Jack likes things with pictures. We
Oh.
couldn't show them plastics last year when I helped Charlotte write it.
Some of the evaluation criteria is project impact, originality, educational value, innovation, response to a need, clarity, and supporting information. So we have
We have
pretty
a ton
much
of that.
all of it covered.
Yeah.
And the photographs that were taken that day were very, very delightful to see, so we still have that. But I would just like to piggyback on this ANJAC and how they help us. So what's interesting for the summer issue, on page 26, I'm like delighted when I turned to it that said, ANJAC joins the DEP Advisory Committee.
Oh, good.
That's huge.
It is.
That's a big voice for all these commissions throughout the state. There are probably 300 to 400 commissions throughout the state of New Jersey. And at any given time, and with all of the efforts that we know are going into climate change, this makes ANJAC an official part of trying to have a big voice in that particular area too. So anyway, congratulations to ANJAC.
One other thing regarding ANJAC, there's also a Municipal Leadership Award that asks for the Environmental Commission's Shade Tree, Open Space, Green Team members to nominate community leadership for recognition for exceptional environmental leadership. The nominees must be elected municipal officials who have initiated and supported outstanding achievements in the environmental field.
Can we, do you think we can elect someone who is no longer on our commission?
Well, the
But
commission
made a
members
big-
are appointed, so no one on the commission can be nominated. It would need to be a council member.
Oh. We're appointed.
We're appointed. The nominee must be elected.
This award, this award is for an
An
elected official.
Oh, well, I have no names.
All right.
Well, maybe.
No, it's
Actually,
okay.
I
Something
do.
positive.
Actually, I do. That was too sarcastic. I would elect Zach Mullick.
I would as well.
I'm not allowed to vote.
Oh, well, I guess,
Well,
well, no, you
yeah,
are
that's-
today. because
Are you meeting about something next week about that?
We're meeting about an achievement award for our commission, but we could also work on the nomination for a municipal
Then
leader.
why don't you, can you do that?
Do
Can you
both?
do that, both?
Sure,
All right.
okay.
I don't think anybody in the commission is against that, right?
No.
No.
I'm getting mixed up between 6 and 7, guys.
Well, we haven't really addressed 6.
No, we're,
Oh,
Sorry.
we jumped right to...
We started, but
We
then we
went to
jumped to 7.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
I guess we can go back to 6 now. Any
We can.
thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I was pretty excited to see a neighbor almost directly across the street, Mr. and Mrs. Kelly. Every single day that they get home from the beach, their relatives, they themselves, hang out all the beach towels on a line. I mean, it's kind of cool to see the little clothespin bag there from the olden days, you know?
Yeah.
Now, this is a youthful couple. This is not somebody, you know,
Like us.
this side. And when I saw this, you know, this happening, and I was looking for some awards for both wind and sun and all that kind of thing that supports our ordinances, I went over and took a picture, and I met Mrs. Kelly, and she was thrilled. She was delighted, and her words were, "You mean other people don't do this?" And I said, "Well, it's a dying art." And maybe if we can, if you would be, allow us to take pictures and to get them into the newspapers and so forth, you might just nudge someone else to put a clothesline up again. So that was kind of a thrill. She was certainly in favor of it, and looking forward to us coming with a certificate for her, and then maybe getting this into the newspaper so there's a more elaborate exposure. So that's the little report, and I think that Justine is working on a certificate for us to take across the street. So I'm thrilled to give that report.
Anybody have a problem with generating this? Okay.
Are we calling this the Clothespin Award?
It's the Clothespin Award. However, I do think it's kind of pretty neat that the Star and Wave recently, I don't know if you've been looking at the cartoons within the Star and Wave, but I did bring a couple of them, and one of which, just last week, this goes along with our ordinance. So we have this guy with an umbrella.
That's great.
It is good.
That goes along with New Jersey declaring a drought.
It does.
That's so true.
I see Gretchen
Oh, I saw.
idea in that. Yep.
We still have neighbors sprinkling away.
In my neighborhood, it's mostly people who are not here, and it's automatic. And they sprinkle, whether it's raining or not, just
I
fine.
guess we can go into that news flash. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So,
Well, it's not hard to police
Even
because
though
their grass is green. Mine's not.
I think that people have kind of a demonizing view of wind. The Star and Wave did this cartoon a week before. So I found extra copies. So you can all keep this.
Oh, Charlotte.
Thanks.
You know, we're a town that respects our history. And so when I look at this, and I think about demonizing wind, we depended on it from the very beginning to keep the settlers going.
It brought them here.
It did bring them here. So I would like to say that I think every side of a story should be looked at before we make drastic decisions. And I believe that it's powerful to have wind on our side.
No problem with here, for me. You're reading about Ocean City, though,
Oh,
right?
it's a mess.
I mean, they got some issues.
Are they protesting the turbines that they
It's
can
been
see?
Well, they're
going on for
a bunch
months.
of it, it's because, for a lot of reasons. I guess they think they can see it, and especially where it actually comes inland, where it all connects to the grid. I mean, it's coming right down the middle of their town, which they're not happy about. I mean, it's right, I mean, again, I'm not an expert at what they're going through, but it's really gonna be a mess up there to get this thing approved, especially when it comes into Ocean City. I mean, for one thing, I thought they suggested, well, maybe they should come in, like, we're in a lagoon area or somewhere where it's not as populated, but they're really projecting to come right down across their main
What-
center of town.
What connects it? They're not more wind turbines, are they? They're the-
Well, some kind of a
wind
conduit, some kind of conduit wires that actually convey the power up to the mainland. I mean,
Won't it be
do- well, they
buried?
do.
it'll be buried. Oh, it's certainly going to be
Yeah.
buried.
But they will be buried.
Oh, absolutely, it's going to be buried.
So they're
So-
just
so what's the
complaining about
protest?
the construction.
They don't want to have it coming underneath their town.
Their cable does?
It's
their
just pivoting
television-
to
It's
find
just-
something else to complain about.
Okay.
I'm
It
not-
ultimately won't be visible. It's just construction for a while.
So my family is in Iowa, fine state of Iowa and Minnesota, and when the wind turbines, and when you're driving through at night, that's all you see, is these big wind fields.
Isn't it pretty?
It's beautiful. But, the controversy comes from when they need a new turbine or they need to, replace the windmill part of it. And I think that's what's giving it a really bad reputation out here in the middle of the ocean is, are they going to maintain it? Are they going to be able to keep up with that? Or are they just going to, pivot it into the ocean?
There's
I think
so
those,
much-
those are some concerns that people have, but the farmers embraced it and, willingly gave them the outside lines of their farm and away it went, so.
There's just so much misinformation. I mean, there's
Exactly.
still people, educated, informed people in this city saying that it's bad for the birds.
Yeah.
It's like cats kill more birds than these windmills would. And then there are other people, someone was saying to me the other day about how they're going to drip like barrels and barrels of oil into the ocean every year. It's just the misinformation
It's not
is
dripping into the land
rampant.
at all.
I can't agree more. I mean,
mean,
there's nothing as certain as change, but people just can't quite
Yes.
get to grips with it. I mean, not in my backyard, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Maybe we could, now that we're finished with the third Star and Wave Environmental Commission piece for the summer, maybe we could pivot to something else for the fall and do like bullet point facts about wind. Kind of trying to debunk in a positive way some of these myths.
What's Anjak's
Do you know-
position on that? Do you know?
Oh,
I don't. I guess I should, but I
I mean,
don't.
I'm just, again, you don't want to reinvent the wheel here. If we
Right.
can get some,
Maybe they already have the
That's what I'm saying.
text.
They may
Yeah,
have
I mean,
it,
they
and
support it.
I
but-
may have
Justine,
missed.
a man named Paul Curlinger would have the facts about the birds. He was a director of CMBO at one time. He now testifies in favor of wind turbines. He would have all those facts
is
about Paul Curlinger,
Dr. Paul.
Dr. Paul Curlinger.
Well, actually,
Can-
Evelyn, you're absolutely right. And New Jersey Audubon did take a positive position.
Yeah, at first they didn't.
Right.
and now they
They
have.
do.
did it.
They're in
They did their
favor of it.
homework.
I mean,
They
the fact
did.
that New Jersey has pushed this,
Right.
so certainly, they have to have something down of their positive, why they're
Chris
doing
might
it.
even know.
Why they're doing it.
There's
Why
a ton of research out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the Midwest.
So once we
I'm
just
sure
find,
Chris
just once we
knows a
just
lot,
find
too.
that good conduit, then we can,
Okay, and we can
together.
update the ad and run
Yes.
it in the fall. That's great. Okay, so we can put that on the to-do list for the
But
next few
I have
weeks.
to thank the cartoonist
I know,
at the
this is
Star and
great.
Wave. She was a brilliant woman
Yeah?
who is thinking
don't know
about
her.
us. Yes, well, comes from a very old family. Her maiden name was Stewart. She's Karen Stewart. And I don't know what her married name is, I'm sorry. But so that her family have been here for probably since like grandparents, 1880s or something, presence in town. So she cares a whole lot about the town. And obviously, she's looking at our ordinances for rain and for wind. I don't know what she's going to do next week, but I can't wait to see.
any comments on the number 8, the drought watch? Anybody want to say anything about that?
I wonder, I mean, now that it's an absolute official, what can you do about, if you find watering of lawns during the rain? What do we do?
There's so many people doing it now. I mean, what are you going to?
I don't know.
I asked Haberman, because Haberman is in charge of our entire 18.9 acres. And I said, how can you water when it's raining? And they said, for the most part, the rain doesn't soak it enough. It just is the top half inch. It doesn't get far enough down. So that unless it's a real downpour, it doesn't compensate for the watering.
I understand that, but
But,
But-
so, I mean, I asked because I thought we could save a lot of money, you know, because this is, not all of it is cultivated, as you know. And that was their
Well,
response.
According to the ordinance, all automatic irrigation or sprinkler systems shall have rain sensor devices. So those individuals and homes are,
out of compliance.
yep.
But we don't know what it needs to sense before it turns itself off.
Rain and/or, well, if you have a really sophisticated one, moisture down X number of inches.
That's what you were referencing, Mara. I
Right. So in
understand.
other words, you need to find out what the ordinance says, at which point it would turn it off.
It just says, rain sensor devices or switches to override the automatic irrigation or sprinkler cycle when adequate rainfall has occurred. Any
Adequate.
system without a rain
Yeah,
sensor
that's-
device is in violation. So it's
Adequate is not
Kind
a
of
number.
That's
An
very,
opinion.
that's very fluid, sorry.
Yes, it is. It's too fluid. It's, yeah, it doesn't really say.
Mike, could I just refer everybody, we have an environmental commission's handbook. And I guess I've been saying this all summer long at meetings, that the Environmental Commission certainly has great ideas, but the enforcement is not there. So, in our commission handbook on page 13, you see, it says that the commission, some municipalities have established a paid position for a sustainability officer. And here's a sample of the set of duties of a sustainability officer for a commission. They review all applications, they enforce plans, they help to solve the problems, blah, 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 blah. And I have to say, in my estimation, we should have somebody like this, either through the council affording it for us, or there should be a grant found by, maybe by the Green Team. We have a grants writer, Mr. Rutula. But this is certainly giving us, I think, a really great boost for the things that we only recommend. This would give us some teeth. So it's in our manual. And
Can we take it to the Green Team, since they're the ones that can find the money
Why don't we just put it,
in our
an
minutes?
item on our next agenda meeting for Mike?
Could it be a summer position where we hired a student from a college level?
all of those things.
I mean, I think we got to bring it to Mike,
think
and
people
we'll
would
talk about it at the next meeting, and then we
Receive a
can
young person.
bring up these
who
ideas to him and let him go back to council.
Better than-
with
Very
the
good.
idea.
Do you want to
I
give
come
me a
across as
copy
a
of it?
cop.
And I'll include it with the minutes so that anybody who was not at this meeting will be ready to talk about it next month?
Sure,
A thought.
okay.
I wanted to go back to, if I may, talking about the changes to the ordinance. Let me see. Spreading to neighboring properties, those owners contact themselves, the neighbor who owns no. There's something about keeping it on your property. The problem is, I mean, I did an address on this, and somebody said, well, I have a Bradford pear, and I keep mowing around it so it doesn't grow babies. The problem is that the flowers have seeds, and they blow. It doesn't matter that he's keeping his property okay, but if there's any open space that these seeds drop in, the pear grows. So there's, somewhere in here it said something about keeping it in your own property. There are many invasive species that blow on the wind. You can't control that, except get rid of it. I guess I don't like the part of keep it in your own yard, because I don't think you can. And I don't think people realize that something like mimosa blows all over the place, those pretty flowers.
You're right.
So I think it needs to be more than just keep it on your property.
But how would you know who's Bradford pear?
No, you don't know. You don't. I mean, whose purple loosestrife blew and grew on my property? I don't know. But
Because-
if people get rid of it, it won't blow on anyone's
We
property.
try to get rid of 5 a year at the Meadows, but the Shade Tree Commission isn't quite as committed to getting rid of Bradford pears.
Really? Oh,
And then we just had a 40-foot-tall Japanese black pine become diseased enough that it had to be taken down right on Lafayette Street. You don't want
Yes.
this
Yeah.
two-trunk tree to
fall in the
cross
street. Yeah.
And that was $1,000, and there went our Bradford pear budget.
Oh, my gosh. I know that I spoke to, a while ago, months ago, spoke to the chair of the Shade Tree, and he said they were trying, that when they first got together, when they first made a commissioner, they thought Bradford pears were wonderful and planted them. Now they're trying to get rid of them. So
Well,
that's
they
all
were
I
the
know.
love of all the developers because they
They're so
grew
pretty.
fast and they were pretty,
Right,
but
right. There's a clue. They grow fast.
What about addressing our growers? There's a whole hay wagon full of loosestrife for sale up on the.
No,
Route 9.
where?
Now, maybe it's the.
Where did you see that?
I'll tell you later.
Okay, okay.
But, I mean, maybe it's the
That's who we have to.
the virgin whatever that doesn't spread, that version
That's a
of it?
baloney.
That's what I thought. But I was just shocked to see a whole
It's not
wagon
true.
full.
I called one of our landscapers because they were planting loosestrife. And I said, who is your supplier for this? And the answer was, we don't sell it anymore and we don't plant it anymore. So I didn't get a name. But you're right, we have to contact the people that are growing these. I don't know how to find them.
I mean, it's a tough business, too.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've
to
been-
try and police them, it wouldn't be.
I'm still going around giving people brochures about the purple loosestrife.
Next time Mike comes to the meeting, you can bring up what you just brought about
The growers.
no,
Oh,
about expanding it on
Yeah.
somebody else's property.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how to
will.
get it from here to there,
Right,
unless Mike takes it.
you're right.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
I just, yeah,
English ivy will like grow under the road and come up on the other side.
I
It's
know.
crazy.
yeah.
Just
it
like
is the-
bamboo.
One of the
Yeah.
strongest vines
And trying
ever.
to get rid of it.
That and kudzu.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been trying to get rid of it. You know, it's just a little conservation garden at the end of Cape May? Well, there's ivy in there, and I have been trying for 2 years to get rid of it. And it
Just
just
pops
has a
back
life
up,
of its
yeah.
own.
I pour straight vinegar on it.
Oh, you do? You
Oh,
pickle
yeah.
it, huh?
I'll have to
Yeah,
get
I do.
gallons
I
of
pickle
it.
And
But-
it turns brown, and then I can pull it out.
But it doesn't hurt the roots of the tree that it's growing on? Okay, that I was afraid of.
So,
So it doesn't really die down if you cut the roots at the base of the
No.
tree? It still keeps?
Well, it grows underground and it'll start up
Sure.
again.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, who brought it here in the first place?
The English, when they came.
Hello.
How you doing? Hello, Mr. Lou. Anybody have any,
Open it up to the public?
well, number 9, anybody have any questions about number 9?
No.
The Inflation Reduction Act,
Oh, no.
our policy, climate change.
So this impacts me personally in a big, big way because I am building a net zero home right now. And I was eligible for a certain, amount of tax credit, and now that is changed, and certain appliances and pumps and EVs are eligible and certain ones aren't, depending upon their
Oh, yeah,
tiers of efficiency and where they're manufactured. And so this act is fantastic, but it is hard to understand how it impacts our lives on a practical level. And it'll obviously take time for it to roll out. But I was thinking that in time, maybe at some point over the next 6 months, the commission might be able to, again, use the Star and Wave as an informational platform to deliver some tips to the public on how to utilize the savings or like take advantage of the savings offered through the act. It's hard if it's hard for me to interpret it, and I have been working on this for 2 years and I'm very knowledgeable of these appliances, then it's going to be very difficult for people who
Regular people,
are not as familiar. And I think that maybe in the coming months, we could allocate some time to deciphering it for our community.
That's
Okay.
That's good. And then
wonderful thought.
put something in the paper that simplifies it.
Mm-hmm.
Or tells you where to go to find answers.
Yeah, even identifying stores in the county that have appliances that
That
are
need that.
eligible for these credits, because certain washer and dryers are, certain ones aren't. And, it doesn't say it directly on the website. When you click on that, that washer, it may not say, or certain windows are eligible for significant savings, but others aren't. And just kind of creating some sort of guide, I think would be great.
Keep that item on
Sounds
the
good.
agenda then. Keep that item on the agenda so it just doesn't drag.
Drift off.
Yeah, we don't talk about it anymore. Public portion? Nobody has anything to say? Anybody else have anything for good of the order? Anything?
I wondered, oops,
Go ahead.
lost a hearing aid, which is,
So we're going to keep number 9, and are we keeping number 8? What are we keeping for next month? Well, Mike, number 5?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Number 5, sure.
add
Well, let's
that
keep
one.
8 because it's probably going to change in the next 30 days. Really. I mean, something's going to happen in the next 30 days about the drought.
yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it on the agenda.
Good idea.
And I will include them in the minutes.
Okay.
That
Can you make a copy right now, here, of what I have? The handbook, you mean?
Sure.
I can email it to you. It's page 13, right? That's the only page you need?
All right, then
That's
that
fine.
would be
I
great
just-
if you emailed it.
And that way you have the digital file already, and you can just send it to everyone.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Mhm.
All right.
Does anybody want to see the letter from the planning board to Gretchen and do you want me to just send that whole thing out to you?
Yes, please.
Okay.
But in the meantime, need to get working on the Monarch Fest, right?
Yep. So, anyone who wants to help?
That help at the table.
I'll help at the table.
Okay.
I'm going to be in San Diego.
Shoot.
Sorry. My grandson calls.
Oh, yes.
You bet.
Priorities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You got a new one again?
No, he's 1 year old.
Ah, okay.
That means-
Time is precious. So I'll send out some emails about the Monarch Festival. And
Wonderful.
unlike with Ocean Fest, we are not a sponsor of it. We will just be attending as a nonprofit/vendor organization.
Organize your bills. Get it.
Okay.
I have a question. You know the plaque in the mall that has environmental people per person per year? And now it's moved to the water conservation, not the water, the water tower garden. There's a bench there that we're going to put the plaque on. We should be thinking about someone for this year, a name.
Well, because the Water Tower Garden was a grant that we submitted as a commission several years ago. So then I think that what Evelyn is saying, that each year someone is given an honor to be cited,
Yes,
that's,
and somebody
So
who's
put that
done
on- put
something
that
for
as
the
an agenda
environment.
item.
well, the people who sponsored that were Heather Bruno, the past
And
chair.
Judy King.
And Judy King, in terms of getting the grant for the water tower plantings. So,
Whose names are on
Let's
it
let's
now?
discuss it at the next meeting. We'll
Charlotte's
discuss it at
on
the
it.
next meeting.
I was going to say, I think her name
She's
should
on
be
it.
on it.
It's already on it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and, I can't,
I'll walk over and just read them. Yeah, okay.
Can you get into the water tower garden?
It's the
Oh, it's
bench
open.
right in
It's
front,
free.
right?
It's open.
Yeah.
it's right next to the
I
parking
thought it
lot
had
for the
the
dentist.
fence around it.
There's a
Just the
fence
tower,
around
just
the
water
tower,
just
but
the water
not,
tower.
there's a little house next to the next to the fence, and that was all planted.
And there's
Okay.
bamboo behind it.
And there's bamboo behind it, right?
so what happened with that bench and this little building? When we first were going through the process of thinking, 25 years ago, that we needed a desal plant here in the city, people they were somewhat reluctant to think that desalinated water might taste differently than what they were used to from the spigot. So the city manager at that time and the city public works made that a usable conduit for we the citizens to go and taste desalinated water.
Really?
Yes. So that was specifically why, that particular use of that little building originally.
Oh,
Isn't that interesting?
There you go. So I'm supposed to be a historian.
Yeah. Very interesting.
That was your contribution for the
And that
meeting,
was my
right?
contribution.
Motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
All righty.
All right,
Mike's
turn the